Welcome, viewers. Welcome to Mindful Trinity. I am Vaisnavi, and our topic today is on Ayurveda, Ayurvedic diet and lifestyle in this modern age. So we are joined by a very amazing human and also a friend now. Her name is Astra Apsitis. She'll correct me if I'm wrong in the pronunciation of her name.
Perfect.
Okay. She's from California in US. So welcome, Astra.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so grateful that you accepted our invite and you're here to grace us with your awesome presence.
It's lovely to be here.
Thank you. So let me just fill you in about Astra, give you a little bit of information and let you in her life. You can connect with her as well. Astra has been a professional educator for 20 years. She has recently added, she's now a yoga teacher and an Ayurvedic practitioner, and has recently added clinical somatic exercises to her teaching. Having found that bringing people into awareness of their breath through mindful movement has facilitated teaching yogic practices to a population new to yoga. She has established the combination of clinical somatics and deeper practices of yoga, effective tools in aiding patients recovering from injuries and chronic pain as part of a functional restoration program team in a comprehensive pain clinic. As a skilled professional educator, Astra brings a passion for all things related to yoga and Ayurveda, alive with personal stories and philosophical insights from her experience of being an high school teacher. As an adult who conquered chronic anxiety, as a wellness practitioner in the medical field, and as a spiritual aspirant, taking frequent steps on the path to a regular practice and inner peace. Her classes inspire the development of wisdom through the development of personal practice with the goal of making life completely understandable, manageable, and meaningful. Wow, Astra, that is a mouthful. And it just looks that you got so much to offer. And again, I'm very grateful that you're here to share your knowledge and your expertise with all of us. Do you have anything further to add to your bio?
I don't think so. I know it is a mouthful, which is why I ended up calling myself a wellness educator, because that whole list of everything got to be too much to explain. So it's really kind of a gestalt way of looking at health.
True. Yeah, you're also very inspirational. So thank you so much. What is, in your words, how would you explain Ayurveda? What is Ayurveda?
Well, you can tell that I was a teacher for a long time because I come with teaching with my visuals here.
Good,
so
good.
This is beautiful. Oh wait, because some of us learn by hearing and some of us learn by seeing. So here's the word itself broken down. And so Ayu, life, and life is not just your physical body. Life is everything. It's your senses, it's your soul, it's your psyche. So it's the wisdom of what your life is. When my mother started to hear what Ayurveda was, she said, that's just common sense. And the fact is, it is common sense that most of us have forgotten. So it's from the Vedas. So it is wisdom based on observation of nature. And it's that wisdom applied to how we live our lives. And that's Ayurveda. It comes out of Samkhya philosophy. And that's where yoga and Ayurveda are similar. And that's important to know because they have common roots, and those common roots show us how it is that all those elements manifested on the ground. And so that's what yoga and Ayurveda talks about. How's that for a nutshell?
Very good. I'm actually taking down notes as you speak because it's also good to learn. And that is why I put this whole learning. It's actually more of a learning experience for my audience and for me as well. And I think there's no better way of putting this into practice by hearing and learning, and hopefully,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
And
hopefully,
I was taught to teach to learn. And so that is why I'm a wellness educator, is because I am learning every day. It's sort of an ecstasy of learning in this way, because that's what it is. It's just awareness, awareness, awareness until you get that higher awareness, which gives you that discerning wisdom, which is where the magic happens. So it's been a lovely journey. It's the oldest medical system in the world. Chinese medicine is based on Ayurveda. There's nothing older.
That's actually very, very interesting. Another thing with the knowledge, that's one thing no one can take from you. So, and it's good to share it. And when you share it, you learn more as you share. Yeah. So can you explain in your own words, what is an Ayurvedic lifestyle?
Well, in order to do that, I first have to get down to what Ayurveda is based on, which is the 5 elements. And so here's my teacher thing. Is we have to understand that if we have 5 elements, Ayurveda says that all the elements in the world share 10 pairs of qualities, of opposites. And so I've got them here on the wall. And if you start thinking about earth, water, fire, air, ether, you realize that they have qualities to them. So if we look at water, we're going to have more liquid than dense, than liquid. If we look at these sets of qualities, like we would look at a stereo equalizer, am I giving away my age? A stereo equalizer where you can do the treble and the bass just to get just the right balance of what you need. This is all there is in nature. And so if this is the backdrop, then we can start to see how these qualities show up in us. We can start to see how the elements manifest as what condenses in what way. So you may have heard the word dosha, and everybody gets all tied up in what's my dosha? Is it vata, pitta, kapha? And then how do I eat if I'm a vata or pitta or a kapha? And they sort of miss the boat, because this is what Westerners try and do, is they try and latch onto something that they can hold on to and understand, when this is really about subtle awareness. And so in that subtle awareness, if we have those 5 elements, we start to see that everybody has 5 elements in them, but that some people have a little more of that air and ether quality, a little more nervous, a little more flighty, more thin. Some people have more of that fire and water quality. Those are the go-getters, the thinkers, the doers, the strong ones, the competitive ones. That's fire. And then there are people who have more of the water and earth element in them, kapha. And those are the people who are, heavier, stronger, more settled, more calm, harder to get going, but the most loyal people you're ever going to know. So we all have all of that in us. And if we start to see that if this is what I have in me, so for instance, if I am more pitta and vata, I'm more confusing because I'm a dual constitution, but let's say I was a full pitta. If I know that, and I know that on this stereo equalizer, the things that I have to look out for is, I don't want to get too hot. I don't want to get too sharp. I don't want to get too liquid. So these are qualities that show up in our food, in our mood, in our music, in our books, in our weather, in you name it. But when we start to see these qualities, we can start to see how they apply to our lives. So it's complicated, but it's simple at the same time, because it's all about what we're aware of our rhythms, aware of, how we feel, aware of what's going on around us, aware of what we put in our bodies. I'm wordy. Have you figured that one out yet?
No, but it's actually very good to have a more of a deeper understanding. So by getting the extra information really helps a person that doesn't know anything about Ayurveda. So yeah. So thank you. If you need to talk more, it's better for us. So we are very grateful for that.
So just so you get this idea that we're looking at everything by their qualities.
Yes.
And let's just make this simple, because let's just put down what the 5 elements are, and then we can see how they come together. We have earth, water, fire, let's say air first, air, and ether. Ether is just space. Everything occurs in space. And so when we see in our bodies or in nature that there's more air and ether quality, we call this vata. And the qualities of vata then would be light and cold, mobile, rough. And if you take a look at what that means in lifestyle or food, lifestyle that can aggravate vata is too much talking, too much traveling, an irregular schedule, irregular meal time. So anything that doesn't have a rhythm is going to affect this. Think about what air does. It starts to disperse everything if you don't start to rein it in. And so what we need to know about Ayurveda quite simply is that if like increases like, the way we're going to calm that element is to think back at what our qualities were. And if we think that vata is cold, well, we're going to have to heat it up a little bit. If vata is too light, we're going to have to add a little bit of weight, add some heavier foods. Don't be eating chips and salads and things because you want to ground here. And then if vata is too mobile, we need to start to still vata. If vata is too dry, and this is a very big thing in vata, this is why oil is your friend. If vata is too dry, the thing that counteracts that is not water, it's oil. So oily food, oil on your skin, oil in your nose, oil in your ears. I put oil in everything. Oil is your friend. So that's what, basically, that's my vata part, is knows that oil is my friend. So that's vata, air and ether. But then when we add fire and water, here's where we get our fiery personalities. That's pitta. It's a combination of water and fire. And so think about water and fire and what that does. It boils. And so if you've got a pitta who's already kind of competitive in their nature, and then they go out to lunch and they add all kinds of hot sauces and they want the spiciest version of everything. And then they might go smoke a cigarette and have a beer with that, which adds more heat into it. And that's going to take it too far. And then think, if that same person has been traveling too much and talking too much and doing too much, then that air element which they have, what does air do to fire? Flares up, and then all of a sudden we're snapping at somebody. The funny thing is that, you know who's really attracted to Bikram yoga? Who needs it the least? Go into a parking lot after a Bikram yoga class and you'll see people arguing about parking spaces and snapping at each other, because it increases these elements in your body, and heat in your body has to come out somehow. And if you're not going to express it through your mouth, it's going to come out in a rash or acne or some kind of inflammatory condition. So that's pitta. And then the last one, when you combine earth and water, what do you get when you combine earth and water? Mud. Yeah. And so this is where things start to slow down. And so this is kapha. And kapha, when it's gone too far, doesn't want to get out of the couch, doesn't want to do anything, gets real possessive about everything they have. Nope, nope, that's mine. Starts to get real possessive because kapha, it's that adhering, cohesion principle. We need that cohesion principle because otherwise we wouldn't have our physical bodies. So if someone is too vata, too scattered, too nervous, to everything, we want to increase this element. So we're going to go for the elements that are here and try and bring them into here, because we want to get some more kapha into our vatas. So we all have all of this in us, which is why it's kind of scary when people just latch on to I'm a pitta or I'm a kapha, because the fact is we also have something called prakriti and vikriti. One is what you were born with, the balance that you came out of your mother's womb with, and how you were when you were a child. And then, oops, sorry, Vikruti. Here's me not having my Sanskrit in front of me. Vikruti. Well, you know, in Sanskrit, they always change they change the transliterations of them all the time anyway. So it could be wrong, it could be right. But the idea is that you are born with one, and that is what you were, that is your body type. And that as you live with your diet and your lifestyle and what happens to you and what stage of life you're in, that becomes your Vikriti. So you may have been born a total pitta, real strong kid, the kid that was always competitive, top of their class, good student, always really organized. But then as they grow up into adulthood and they maybe end up in the wrong kind of job or end up in an abusive relationship, and then all of a sudden everything, there's no steadiness and they're too mobile and they increased all these air and ether elements, and then they go to an Ayurvedic practitioner and then they take a dosha quiz online and they come back and they say, I'm Vata. I say, no, you have a Vata imbalance. That's your Vikriti. And so now we have to figure out what is your original balance and try and put you back to that. Because I have seen people who, I had a client last summer, grossly obese. I mean, he could barely move, but in his eyes, in his feature, in his mind, that guy was so pitta. And when he started a yoga practice, he went at it with vigor and fervor I've never seen anyone do. And he lost about 50 pounds within 2 months and worked on his strength and he's competitive. And so here, if you would have seen him, everybody went, oh, look at that kapha. He had a kapha imbalance. And so what do we do to correct a kapha imbalance is get them moving, get them moving, get them moving. They're the ones who should be eating that sharp and spicy and pungent food to get them moving. They're the ones who should be doing Surya Namaskar and Bikram Yoga. They usually don't want to. But a perfect kapha makes the best doctor, the best friend, the best boss. My Ayurvedic practitioner is a perfect kapha. She's from India and she doesn't even nod yes or no. She does this. And my pitta had to deal with that. Yeah. And what I appreciate about a firm kapha is that, so I've got a lot of vata, all that anxiety that I've pretty much tackled, but you got to know the vestiges of it are still there. And then there's that pitta that says, oh, you're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do. And so it takes someone with absolutely flat affect and calm demeanor to work with someone like me. And it's good to know. So this is in yoga svadhyaya, good to know who you are. And that's what Ayurveda allows you to do, is you can start to take a look at how you were built and see what you can do to keep yourself in balance.
Yeah, true. So, well, because Ayurveda is a more of an ancient practice, we should be using it in this day and age. How would you encourage someone that has no knowledge of Ayurveda to introduce Ayurveda into their life? Or why would they want to use it?
I'll tell you why. Because if you really want your life to be understandable, manageable, and meaningful, you will start to understand how it is that you are totally related to nature. As above, so below. So man is a microcosm. And the fact is that we live on a rhythm that is determined by nature already. Women know this intimately. Every 28 days, we follow the moon, we follow the tides, right? So if we realize that there is maybe a rhythm of the day and a rhythm of the year and a rhythm of our lifetime, then instead of working so hard, we could actually fall into a rhythm that actually follows nature. And we know that as a circadian rhythm. We know that when the sun goes down, that's the time we're supposed to sleep. And when the sun comes up, that's when we wake up. Ayurveda sees it just a little differently, because I'm going to draw you an Ayurvedic clock. So pardon the fact that I cannot draw a perfect circle. Hey, that's not too bad. So the Ayurvedic clock goes in 3 sections. And so we go from about 10 to 2 is Pitta time. About 8 to 10, Kapha time. Wait a minute, what am I doing wrong? 10 to 2, 2 to, boy, I'm losing it. Yeah, so midday, this is why, 6 to 10, that's why. It's in 3, it's math, it's early for me here in California. Okay, so Kapha time, 6 to 10, and then we have 2 to 6 would be Vata time. All right, so what I mean by that is, I'm going to start with the one that everybody already knows, because everybody's heard everybody say you're supposed to eat your main meal in the middle of the day. Well, Ayurveda says absolutely, because that's your Pitta time of day. That means that that's when your digestion is strongest. That's when the elements of light and heat and your body is strongest to digest something. So that one's pretty clear to everybody. But you know what's not clear to everybody is that happens again at night. Between the hours of 10 and 2 at night is when you do your deep digestion. That's when you digest your day. So that means that's when your mind is digesting your day, because Pitta controls your mind as well. And so your mind needs to process. Your deep digestive processes, the delivering of nutrients, the work that the spleen and the pancreas do. All that work happens but at night during that Pitta time. And so Chinese medicine has a whole way of looking at like when you wake up in the middle of the night, whether it's between 12 and 2 or after 2. And Ayurveda sees the same thing, that if you're waking up before 2, that's Pitta time. That means that it's the processing of your day, either your thoughts or your food there that didn't get properly processed. Vata time then becomes the time that those elements are going to be more active. So think about how it's so much easier to just be peaceful and quiet and meditative in the morning, because that's more of that air and ether time. If you end up waking up, say around 8 o'clock, then you're already into Kapha time. And Kapha, remember, is that earth element. It's a little more grounding. It's going to be a little harder to wake up. And then what do people want here? Then they want those really big breakfasts. That's just going to slow us down. But this is that morning time. It's time to sort of get ramped up. At night, this is the time to do some quiet, soothing practices that are more kapha related. So more grounding, more balancing, quiet things, so that we can go into that Pitta time. So if we start to see this during the day, then we can start to see how we might be doing things opposite. It used to be for me, when I didn't understand the Vata time, and this was back when I had all that anxiety, is that I would come, I was a high school teacher, and I would get home around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was, and because that's the air time, and what is high school teaching? It's a lot of be quiet. It's a lot of think. It's a lot of talk. And I would get home. This would be totally overactive. I had no idea how to slow it down. Didn't know what was happening. There went the bottle of wine. There went the cigarettes, because I didn't know how to move from my day into my evening. So that's what yoga and Ayurveda have allowed me to do, is to be aware of that. And it's not that I made any concerted effort to stop doing anything that was a bad habit. It's just that the desire fell away, because then I understood how I could actually move through my day. And that peace then started to last all day long.
Mhm.
So it's all about awareness.
Wow,
How's that for a
thanks.
mouthful?
No, it's actually very nice. Thanks so much for that. It's a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope at the end of this our session today, you are kind enough to share some of that tools with our audience so they can introduce this into their daily lifestyle and maybe gradually take to it, because some people, well, I think it's human nature. Something that's new, we don't just take to it easily. Very gradual steps.
Well, and this is the difficult part about Ayurveda, is that when I was first introduced to it, it was through a friend who just knew some things that she could calm me down, you know, oil massages and nice cooked food and warm tea. And I thought, oh, what a nice way to care for people.
Mhm.
And when I found myself totally exhausted, you know, every few months, and I looked into it, I tried to figure it out from a book. I tried to figure it out from books and websites, and gave up and went to an Ayurvedic practitioner. But even she didn't really explain everything to me. This is why what I do now is so unique, because I don't hang a shingle as an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I take it all into consideration. So when I'm working with my clients and everything, a consultation with an Ayurvedic professional can help you work through all the, well, I don't know, how do I apply that to me? Because that's what Ayurveda does, is that we develop this lens to see people and their health and their lifestyle, and to see, like, I would start with maybe three suggestions to start incorporating into your life.
Yeah.
But everyone's different. So there's no way that I could say, you know, for everyone, you need to do this, because everybody's in a different vikriti.
Mm-hmm.
That even though I know that vata is the one that most easily goes out of balance, what prescription that would be for someone, just like when you prescribe somebody a medication, it has to be very specific to what their disease is. In this case, it's diet and lifestyle, very specific to who that individual is. So whereas we go to allopathic doctors to fix us, we go to Ayurvedic practitioners so that we can get a more awareness of what we've been doing in our lives and what little tweaks we can make to get us on a path that leads us to health, or leads us back to our original balance.
True, very true. Well, I know with me, I've been off balance recently, and I know I'm pitta, vata, off balance.
I
Yeah.
know that one.
Okay. So just I'm trying to do more self-care methods for myself, and so I can actually be more benefit to my students or whoever I come into contact with. So yeah.
And that's exactly it. So, you know, since I've taken on an Ayurvedic lifestyle and been doing this, that now my sleep, my digestion, I'm healthy.
Very good. Well, you do look very healthy, so thanks for actually introducing that to us. Okay, and with regards to sleep, how many hours of sleep, according to Ayurveda, do you think a person is recommended for a person to be restful during that time? How many hours?
So here again, we need to look at, you know, who that person is and what stage of life they're in, because we know that teenagers can sleep for 15 hours and that their bodies need that. And that if you've ever had an older person in your life, you realize that sometimes they only need to sleep 6 hours. So a lot depends on your stage of life, because you know what? Ayurveda comes into your stage of life as well. And so this does relate to sleep. Basic thing is sleep before 10 and sleep until you're rested, and then you'll be good. But if we think about childhood, children, this is the kapha time of life. Think about the diseases that children get, the mucus and the this, and they're a little pudgy before they lose their baby fat, and that's kapha, right? So kids are going to have to sleep a lot longer. Then when we go for late teen into adulthood, that's our pitta time of life. So if you're really active during the day, you're doing a lot of work, you're doing a lot of think work, you're going to need a lot more sleep. Teenagers sleep a long time. Most adults don't get enough sleep. You'll know when you don't get enough sleep because you don't think straight, you don't heal well. And so knowing, there's so much stuff written about sleep, so much. But, the big thing is if you understand the Ayurvedic clock and understand that if you get that sleep between 10 and 2, you're actually getting good sleep. So pick the time. And then if you're later in life, so we'll call this old age, is Vata. Skin gets dry, skin wrinkles, we start to get forgetful, that air quality goes up. Swami Rama didn't sleep at all. I think he slept maybe 20 minutes a night because he said, you don't need sleep. You need yoga nidra, which is conscious sleep, and that our bodies don't actually need it. So if you are a very advanced yogi and you're so into it, then yeah, you can have conscious sleep and then you don't actually have to lay in a bed at all. He did not.
Wow.
But other folks, I find that for myself, so long as I'm asleep before 10, I wake up when I'm well rested, and I haven't used an alarm clock in over 20 years. So rhythm replaces power. It doesn't matter how much sleep you get, so long as you feel well rested and you stick to a rhythm. And a rhythm means not going to sleep at 9 o'clock Monday through Friday, and then Friday night staying up until 2, and then Sunday staying up until 1, and then thinking that you're going to be able to catch up on that next week, which is what I used to do and what a lot of young adults do. Rhythm replaces power.
Yeah. So you mentioned old age. What what bracket would you put the old age in? Because some people in the 60s may consider themselves old, but most of them are still youthful because they are still working and things like that. So,
but I'll tell you what a lot of them are still experiencing. This is about what physiologically happens to us. And so I don't care how young someone feels. The fact is your body's been on this earth for about 60 years. And it's going to have more of those qualities. We can try to stop wrinkles, but they're still going to come. We know that as you get older, that's when a lot of older folks have constipation, because that's dryness. And so oil, ghee. I consume so much ghee. Your insides need good fats. You won't get fat from it. Your body actually says, oh, I know that. It's got butyric acid in it. It's the same stuff that's in your gut. It already knows, it's almost pre-digested. And when you start putting good fats in your body and nourishing yourself inside like that, and oiling yourself outside, you can counteract that, but you can't stop it. It's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
You're going to get older. You're going to wither. You're going to dry. Take a look at any plant outside. It's just nature. It's what happens.
Yeah, so you actually mentioned about more oil or ghee into the foods. What if there's a family that's all different age groups in one family? So you cannot be cooking the food for everyone with the same consistency of oil or ghee. Because
why not? Your insides. Maybe a teenager isn't going to benefit so much from it, but you know what? It's not that hard to just add. I add ghee to everything. I don't make rice without putting 2 spoons of ghee on my portion of rice. And I lived in India for a whole month just on ghee and rice and salt. So
yeah. So I think the difference is the ghee instead of oil. Ghee is more healthier than oil. Yeah, okay. So how can one incorporate Ayurveda into their lifestyle in this modern age? We're all busy. We don't have time for ourselves.
Well, that's the first thing, is that you need to realize that you need to take time for yourself, because Robert Sivabodha said that if Ayurveda were a religion, nature would be its god, and the only sin it would punish is overindulgence.
Wow.
So overindulgence and haste are the diseases of the modern age. And it doesn't take much to start a practice. I think people get overwhelmed by how much detail there is to it, but I like to tell the story of how I came to yoga kicking and screaming, because it was part of my Ayurveda program and I just didn't want to do it. And I learned these breathing practices, and my teacher said, you're really anxious. If you did these every day, you're going to get better. And I just kind of believed her. And so I kept doing it. And then after a while, after a few months, I started to question it. I'm like, I don't have enough time to do this. I'm a busy person. And then she told a story in class about when she was younger and she had two small children, two boys, 10 and 12 years old. And that even while she was raising them and getting them to school and making them breakfast and everything, that she always managed to take 10 minutes every morning. Sometimes she had to shut herself up in the closet, but she always took 10 minutes to do her daily sadhana. And I thought to myself, I have no children. What's my excuse? I can do at least 10 minutes. And if you think 10 minutes is too much, you could take 5 seconds and take 5 mindful breaths. And that's already putting you on a path to better health.
Yeah.
Being aware of what you do during the day, that if you're skipping your main meal in the middle of the day and then eating a really big meal at night, start eating your main meal in the middle of the day. So awareness of how food affects you, awareness of how different practices affect you. So awareness, awareness, awareness is how you get to it. And if awareness is difficult, which it is for a lot of people, that's when you might benefit from talking to somebody who has the right questions to ask, who can give you insights about your diet or your lifestyle that maybe you just hadn't considered or you hadn't been aware of because you're in it. And when you're in it, you don't really see what you're doing.
In terms of diet, is there a specific diet for each vata dosha that's off balance?
Well, if we want to get it off balance, we have to take a look at what qualities are we trying to calm. So just in general, if we're trying to calm vata and we take a look at what are the qualities of vata, the dry and the rough and the cold, we want to counteract that with things that are hot, oily, cooked, so not raw food. If we want to counteract our fire element, we want to stay away from the spicy stuff. And we want to add cooling things like coconut, cilantro, bitter melon. And then for kapha, this is where we want to get ginger, and they can eat the raw foods, and they can eat the spicy, and not so much on the sweet, because we know that sweet is building, right? So again, we're just looking at the qualities. Vata really likes chips and crunchy things. That's dry and rough. So if you're feeling very scattered and anxious, not the snack for you.
Okay. Very nice. Wow.
So there you go.
Yeah, very nice. Very informative. Yeah. So I'm sure everyone will really appreciate this. Do you have any tools to share with our audience?
I think I just gave you a bunch of them.
One more thing. I'm just getting someone asking about diabetes. Is there a specific diet that they need to follow?
With diabetes, you know that is I know that Western medicine has really picked up on that, and there are ways to manage that. There are herbs that can take down that sweet, but basically, you know what to do. The diabetes is mostly a kapha thing, and so following a more kapha-based diet, and there are lots of resources on that. So one that I'm gonna recommend a couple of different resources.
Okay.
So you can read a little bit more about it. One is Banyan Botanicals. And these guys this is a great resource for herbs as well.
Okay.
So they have lots of articles about Ayurveda, and they have dosha quizzes and dietary tips, and there's a lot that they give. I don't have anything like that yet. And then the other one is lifespa.com. And that's Dr. John Douillard. So there's a lot about breath work and Ayurveda there. And then the college where I received all of my training for Ayurveda and for yoga does everything online now. So I thought that I'd let you guys know what that is as well, because that's in California, but now that's available to everybody. And that is mountmadonnacenter.com. So one last word that I did want to say about Ayurveda that sometimes gets misunderstood is that, you know, we go to doctors here in the United States because we have a condition and then we want to get that condition fixed. We call that pathogenesis. We look at what's sick and we go for how it is that I can go from sick to well. Ayurveda is salutogenic. So Ayurveda does not look at, oh, what your disease is. It's how can we cultivate health? Because Ayurveda knows that your body has the ability to fix itself. But if you've gone way far down on a path, we call it the Roga Marga. If you've gone down that path where now it's gotten stuck someplace and you have a diagnosis of a condition, those conditions are often better treated by the research that we have now. Ayurveda is basically diet and lifestyle medicine, unless you find somebody who has, you know, the 10 years of experience who got it from India, the BAMS, and because that is a bachelor's of Ayurvedic medical science, that otherwise it's a diet and a lifestyle. And so we can start to see where you might be going on a path to poor health and give you the diet and the practices to back you out so that you don't end up going down that path of ill health.
Thank you. So do you have any guidelines that's written that you can actually share with the audience? Maybe they can actually have something, maybe stick up on the wall just to.
Yes, you're gonna find that here.
Okay. Okay.
Because I know that they have handouts on it. It is called Swasayam. It is the art of breath control. So it's a practice that can be done by anybody, no contraindications. It's not going to cause anybody any anxiety, no breath holds or anything like that. And so what I'll do is I will explain what all 8 practices are, and then it's 5 breaths of each of them. And then I will guide you through the practice. And what you'll see is that it starts just with a regular breath in through the nose, out through the nose, and ends with, you know, it just sort of takes it deeper and deeper and deeper, and it has a real calming effect. So it's a lovely way to start to calm the air and ether elements, especially with all the things that are going on in the world, that we might just need a practice that's more than 5 minutes to actually just get us settled down. So almost like a guided meditation, but you will actually be controlling your prana, your life force, and feeling what the effects of that are.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And we are really looking forward to that. So yes, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Yes, see you guys tomorrow and have an awesome evening. Bye-bye.